The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the QATV staff or board of directors. QATV, in compliance with FCC regulations, is prohibited from exercising control over the content of independent, member-produced public access programming.
Hello, and welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Kumu Gupta, your host, and today I have a wonderful feast for the audience. March being Women's History Month, I have in my studio here Ann Hooper Webb, and she is going to be telling us about her great aunt, Margaret Riven Lang, who is a very famous American composer from the period of 1867 to 1972. And what's amazing is that I think even today we don't have that many women composers, and so I thought it would be exciting to talk about a woman being a composer back then in the 1800s. And I met Anne through the Quincy Symphony Orchestra. She is the concertmaster for the orchestra. And so welcome, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you, Kumu.
Yeah, thank you.
Delighted to be here.
Good, good. So this is very exciting, because when I first heard of this, I said, wow, that's amazing. And like this poster in the background here we have, even back then, this is basically all the women composers in the world in the last 100 years.
A great representation of them, beginning back in the 1500s.
1500s, okay. So it goes from 1500s
to the present day.
To the present day. So you can see that it's not that many. It's like one, two, three, four, five rows, and your great aunt is in there. That's right there.
Margaret Riven Lang, right there.
Margaret Riven Lang, and we have some photos. If we can see those, we should be seeing here. So this is your great aunt
when she was a young woman.
Yes,
perhaps about 16.
16, and the next photo is when she was 100.
Yes, this was on the occasion of her 100th birthday, when the Boston Symphony dedicated a concert to her. And this picture is of Eric Leinsdorf greeting her.
And Eric
Leinsdorf was the conductor at that time
of the
Boston Symphony. Now, my great aunt has the claim of being the longest living subscriber to the Boston Symphony, in that she subscribed for 90 years.
Ooh.
She attended Boston Symphony concerts every Friday until the age of 102.
Wow.
And at that time she went into a nursing home and lived out the last 2 years of her life.
How exciting, how wonderful. So why don't you start by telling us about her, and about she is famous, but I suppose it runs in the genes because it comes from her grandfather.
Actually, her father.
Her father, I'm sorry.
Her father was Benjamin Johnson Lang, a great musician in his own right, both a pianist, also an organist, and a conductor. Now, Benjamin Johnson Lang conducted two very important works in our musical history. One was the world premiere of the Tchaikovsky First Piano Concerto, and the other was the American premiere of Parsifal of Richard Wagner. My great-grandfather, Benjamin Johnson Lang, known as B.J. Lang to his friends and his colleagues, was actually very good friends with many great musicians of the day, including Richard Wagner and also Franz Liszt.
Yes.
He went to Germany to study for 3 years with, amongst others, with Franz Liszt, became quite a dear friend of his. I guess their friendship grew over a game of whist, but such a good friend that at the death of Franz Liszt, he was one of the pallbearers.
Oh, yes. How interesting, you talk about, I don't know if you want to call it destiny or whatever, strange coincidences, is that the Quincy Symphony Orchestra's spring concert, which is actually in this month, is a lot of Liszt's.
Yes, we're playing a Liszt piano concerto.
So I said, this is, when I was thinking of the idea, and I said, when we were working through this, the material for the show, I said, this is so amazing, I can't believe this. You don't plan such things,
No, simple coincidence.
Simple coincidences. Yes. And the other coincidence is that, the other coincidence is that something similar is that when you invited me to your concert in Quincy with George Kern, who is a teacher at the Mozarteum Institute in Salzburg, just the night before, I had received some materials in the mail that I had requested from the Mozarteum. And, I was so excited, I was opening the package, and then the next morning, I see your email saying, there's, come to this concert, and I said, wow, this is another coincidence that you can't plan for. So,
right.
We have a picture of that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So obviously, you come from a very musical background, and so can you tell us a little more about your great aunt?
Yes.
How is she your great aunt, and in lineage?
Yes.
And also a little bit about how she got interested, her style of music. I think you have something which is priceless, which is you have her original book of compositions.
Yes, one of them. I'll get to that in a minute. I wanted to start by saying that she had the great fortune of a really superb education in music, thanks to her father, a great perfectionist in music himself, who discovered that she had a great talent and decided to make use of it. It started actually perhaps when she was quite young, learning piano and violin, but also at the age of 12, she had a chance at her first composition when she was inspired to write for the trio with which she was playing quite frequently. Oh. Now, her father noticed all kinds of compositional errors in her writing, and decided, since she had a voice for music, that she should learn some of the grammar. And so he taught her techniques of music which stifled her imagination at the beginning, and which she actually detested, so they say. But she even resolved to learn the techniques of writing music, so that she could better speak her voice. Then, after her initial study with her father, she was sent to Germany. She is said to be one of the last of a tradition of sending great musicians, or musicians to do their learning in Germany. The result of this was that much of her writing style had great German influence. It's said to be late Romantic, or very simply late 19th century, stemming from influences such as Liszt, Dvorak, von Bülow, Paderewski, and of course Wagner. And her writing style evolved into one of chromaticism and rich harmonies, complex harmony, it says, using rich texture, complex harmony, and also chromaticism. And this was quite apparent. You hear a lot of the chromaticism in the works of Wagner, for example, clearly an influence on her. What she wrote was about 200 songs that we actually have left, most of them love songs or of very romantic nature. But she also wrote a couple of orchestral works, and one of these, the dramatic overture, was actually performed by the Boston Symphony. We do not have a copy of the score because it apparently was not published. And at the end of her compositional writing, she actually destroyed all unpublished works. This was a strange habit that she and also her father had, who did some compositional writing himself. Thankfully, many of her works were published, such as the songs.
Yeah, and I think that we are so lucky that I believe that for the 40th anniversary of her passing, there was an effort a revival effort done by someone at the State University of New York at Potsdam, George Donald, and so he has made a CD of some of her music, and we can hear a little piece of it, even today. And so, we're going to play something here, just a short piece. And I think that's great because, we don't want, great music to just fade away. We want to know about it.
Yes.
And keep it alive. So, so if you can play that little short piece.
This is from the CD called Love is Everywhere, and it's called Irish Love Song.
While we wait for that, maybe if you could hold up the book, her book of compositions.
I brought with me, just for fun, a lovely collection of works called Nonsense, Rhymes, and Pictures. And the music is, of course, by my great aunt, but the lyrics are by Edward Lear. And each song starts with the actual limerick and a wonderful design or a picture of about the lyric. For an example, there was an old man with a gong. Now I think that the Irish Love Song is playing.
Like the hazel buds, oh my shall I touch thy dusky hair, morning, with its shimmering glint of gold, oh my
Oh, it's just so beautiful that you just want to keep listening to it.
Thy heart I trod on me, I should die but for thy love. Oh, my
Oh, superb.
This is
superb.
ravishingly beautiful singing by Donald George. The pianist is Lucy Morrow. And this CD, as well as a choral CD and also a piano CD, are all available. They can be obtained online just by looking up either Margaret Riven Lang or even dialing in Love is Everywhere to get started with the recordings.
Right, right. So so that's good to know that the music has not been lost, and and I'm so glad that he took it upon himself to do this.
Yes, we have another man to thank, and that is for the research on my great aunt. This man is James Johnston, who has researched her and her works of music for the past 30 years. He is working even until today on various details of her life. And again, by looking up her name, which I would love to spell if you'll allow it, Margaret Riven is Ruthven, and her last name is Lang, Lang, and you will find any number of sources, but in particular, an absolutely beautiful website on her by this James Johnston is continuing his work on her.
On the research on
Yes.
her. And I think it's amazing that you still have few belongings of hers, and I'm so glad you brought these candlesticks.
Yes, I was told that these candlesticks are from a self-made or self-devised altar at her house. I should say that this woman was indeed forgotten for a long while as a composer, partly because she stopped composing in 1919 and lived out her life until 1972 without composing another note of music. She turned to religion at that time in her life. She claimed that she had many domestic responsibilities, including a mother who was housebound at the time and ultimately an ailing woman. But she wrote some religious tracts called Messages from God. These were sent to churches all around the world, particularly England, Canada, and apparently one church in Egypt. And she considered those to be her life work, her great life work. However, she did, as you know now, she did attend Boston Symphony concerts and almost didn't miss a single Friday, and went furthermore by public transportation to and from, up to the age of 102. Now, when she was 100, the Boston Symphony dedicated a concert to her, and at that concert they performed the work Old Hundredth Chorale, along with Sheep May Safely Graze by Bach, to celebrate the birth of a composer who had lived 259 years before. And there was the lovely picture taken of her with Eric Leinsdorf. And then at the end of the concert, they wanted to give her another accolade and then send her home by taxi. But apparently she ducked out early and went home by her customary means, being the tea.
Oh, wow.
Very, very, she's a very humble woman,
Right.
couldn't stand flash and flare. And it showed up also in her music. In 1920, there was a document that described her music as being extremely tasteful in the texts that she chose for the music, and never going for glitter and gold, but for the truth. She sought the truth in what was in the words.
Very nice. So that's your great aunt, and we see, generation down now you're here. So
Two
okay.
generations, actually.
Two generations. So she was your father's sister's.
She was actually on my mother's side of the family, the Lang family,
Okay.
and she was my mother's aunt, being the elder sister of my grandfather, my mother's father.
Your mother's father's sister.
My mother's father was also a musician, Malcolm Lang. He was also organist and pianist, and also choral director.
Oh, very nice.
So the music was passed down through him, and he noticed at once that my mother had what we call perfect pitch, who can pluck an A out of the air,
Oh, wow.
and told her that she therefore should learn the violin, which she did. She thus became my first violin teacher.
And so your journey continued, and so I know you play with a couple of orchestras. You've been to Salzburg, so can you talk a little bit about that? And then also, something very interesting that I found was that you play the fiddle. So I'm curious to know, how did that come about?
Yes. All right. Well, for violin, it was apparent to me from an early age that I wanted to be a violinist. I wasn't always true to my practicing, but even at the age of 8, I said to my great aunt, when I visited her, that I was going to be a famous violinist. And that just stuck in the head. I'm not sure I became famous, but I did become a violinist. My schooling was at the Mannes College of Music in New York, where I studied with two superb teachers, William Kroll and Raphael Bronstein, and had a great deal of chamber music learning from that school, as well as from 2 summer music schools. Then after one more year in New York, I went to Salzburg, actually with the prime intention of getting on the other side of a language, but certainly seeking musical opportunities. I landed a job in Salzburg with a chamber orchestra called the Camerata Academica. And I also took further studies with Bruno Steinschaden and also Sándor Vég. After 6 years, I began subbing in another orchestra, which was in Munich, only an hour and a half away. And I then later joined that orchestra to spend the last 3 years of my sojourn in Europe, in Munich. And that orchestra, the Symphonie Orchestra Graunke, is now known as the Münchner Symphoniker, or the Munich Symphony. And then I came back home and auditioned. Actually, I don't think I even auditioned. I inadvertently auditioned for the Pro Arte Chamber Orchestra, with which I've played ever since. I play also in the Boston Philharmonic, and I'm a freelancer also in Boston.